Hello JavaScript folks, we're going to do chapter 9 in this video, doing the enhanced stock application on page 277. It's probably the hardest exercise there, so that will be a good one to talk about. This is the original screen before the JavaScript is run. All the codes in JavaScript has been commented out at this point, so the job of JavaScript is to take all these titles here for the articles and create a table of content out of it and place it on the left side. So let's see how that's done. We're going to look at the HTML first, and notice aside is completely empty, and this is where the table of content is going to go. The next elements are article, in which there's always a title in an H2 element, and then the article itself in p tags. Here's the second one, H2, and is formatted all the same way, so it will be easy for JavaScript to pick up all this data and create a table of content. JavaScript. Let's move this comment down one line, and we can now execute the first one, which says we're going to add H2 heading in the aside element. So you name the element aside, add append, and we're going to put this string right in the aside. And of course it's not just a string, this is actually a child, H2, and table of content will be the content. So we save this, refresh, and here it is. Table of content is now here. And if you want to see the code, we select all and do a view selection source. And sure enough, in the aside, here it is, H2 table of content, and we're done with that. The next line of code is going to be wrapping H2 text in a tag. Okay, so this is the main titles of the articles. Under article element, this is going to take all the H2s one at a time and apply the wrap inner command, which means it's going to wrap the a tag around the content of the H2. Let's see if that's true. Refresh. Nothing different on the screen, but we're going to look at the code itself. And there it is. Article H2, and here's the A tag all by itself, wrapping the title, and it's happening on every H2. So this is what happens now. Line number 3. Add IDs to the A tag. So we're taking the element article. This time we're going to look at all the A's which we have just created. Under each A, we're going to apply a function, and notice that we get to put a variable index in this function. What it will do is that this variable will keep track of the element number of the A tags as they are being cycled through. So the first time through, index will actually contain 0. Second A tag, the index will contain a 1, and so forth, and we can use this number as you'll see. Here we create a variable ID. We give it a string heading. We are concatenating index, and we're adding a 1 because we want heading 1 to begin, the first one, heading 2, heading 3, and so forth. So since index starts at 0, we just add a 1 always. Index 0 is going to give us a 1, index 1 is going to give us a 2, and so forth. Next is this, which is going to point to the current A in the loop, and we're going to use the attribute command, and in the ID, we're going to create an ID, and this ID is going to contain this variable, which now has ID heading 1, 2, and so forth. So we save this, we refresh, and we check out the source. And here it is, H2A ID heading 1, heading 2, and so forth. The third line, clone article A tag and insert them into the aside. So article, all the A's on the article, we're going to use the clone command method, and we're going to insert, we're going to clone, in other words, whatever is in the A tag under article, we're going to copy that, and we're going to insert it after the aside 2. Now there's only one H2 element under H side, but it will pick on that one. It will simply insert it after the present H2 in the aside. And here it is. They all appear. Now let's go look at the selection source. And heading, aside, after the H2 table of content, here we have cloned all the A tags, including the IDs. You see heading 1. And unfortunately, there's no return character, so it's all ended up in one long line. But they're all there. ID, heading 4, and so forth. Let's see, do they work yet? No. The next instruction is remove the ID attributes from the A tags, which are, of course, it's not possible to have the same ID in two different elements. So we're going to take all the A tags underneath the aside, and we're going to remove the IDs. Let's refresh our memory on this one. All right, now we have ID heading 1, which is the same thing as the ID heading 1 under the H2. So that's not acceptable. We save this, refresh, and look at the source. Now we look at up here, the A tag no longer has the ID. We're good. Add the href attribute to the A tag. So yes, if we're going to point and click in this table of content, we need to have an A tag to make a link out of this. So again, under all the A's under the aside, we're going to change the attributes so that now it contains an href. The second parameter is going to be a function to calculate what will be the content of the href. And the content is going to be in this variable, and the variable right now is going to contain a link to the ID heading, plus we're going to concatenate the same old index at the end of it. And then we're going to return href. So this function here return the content of href, and it's going to be, the href is going to contain a link to an ID, which works just fine as a link. Oops. Notice that now we have links everywhere. And aside, sure enough, href, and now we have a link to the ID heading 1 and we have, and I'm sure it keeps on going that way all the way across. Heading 2. These are links, and those should work. Let's try one. Click on top down, and top down comes to the top. But what doesn't happen yet is that the table of content doesn't follow. It's still up there. We want this whole table of content to follow the link. So if we go all the way to the bottom, we'll still have the table of content over here. Okay, so now we're going ahead in the portion that's going to move talk. And we're going to do the first 2 instructions here. First, we are picking up from A. We are going to establish on every click of the A's, we're going to have a function which, first of all, gets the attribute for the href which we are just clicking on. Okay, you know that the A tag in the aside contains links to heading 1, heading 2, and so forth. We're going to take that word, heading 1, heading 2, and so forth, and save it temporarily in ID. Then we're going to change the style of the selected heading, which is one of those H2 elements. So we take ID, which points to the H2 element, and we're going to change this color to blue and the font size to large, 150%. Save and reload. Well, first of all, let's try it. We're going to click on, let's say, top-down chapter design, and here it is, blue and in large letters. And we can also, interesting to always look at the selection, and let's look one at H2. The second one is now has a style of color blue, font size 150. Okie doke. So now we're going to take a look at the rest of the code. This portion of the code calculates where the table of contents should end up. So it's a little complicated. Let's see if we can figure this out. First of all, we are populating this variable h2 offset by using the ID of the h2 element, which we just pointed to, right? We turned it blue. So this ID is still valid for the same element. And we give it the offset property, and we're interested in the top. So this is going to give us the distance from the h2 element from the top of the article. Okay? And why that is important is if everything works out, we can take that value from the top and we can assign it to the aside article talk, and then they would be at the same height, correct? Now I also have some alerts here to give us the numbers on these offset. It will help us figure out how the math is calculated to make that work. So the next thing we want is the aside height, and for that we call the element and we call the height, and it's going to tell us the height of the aside is, let me show you, is simply the distance from here to there. It's the content, the height of the content of that element. And those numbers don't change, but still it will be interesting to see. Also, we're going to have the article height as well. Article and same command there. Okay, now here comes the calculation. If the offset of that H2 element, when adding to the height of the aside, you add those two numbers. If that's still smaller than the height of the article, then we're in good shape and we can take the offset of the H2 element and simply assign it to the aside offset so they are exactly at the same level. At this point, we can go back and run it one more time here. Let's go back to top down, click on this, So now the ID for the top-down chapter design element is 272 pixels from the top of the article. Okay? And press OK. The next one is the height of the aside, and that one is 185. The height of the article is a big number, 1323, is because the article is quite long. So everything worked out, and we were able to assign the same offset of this H2 to the offset of the aside. Now, if we go to the very bottom, things will be different. The offset now is 1257. Okay, so let's start to remember this number. 1257 plus a height of 185 is going to go past the number 1331. So the else at that point is going to take over, and it's simply going to take the article height, which is 13 something, subtract from that the aside height, 185, and it's going to put the aside a little bit higher than the H2 element for the article, but at least it will still be visible. And here we go, click OK, and you notice the H2 is here, but the aside is a little bit higher, and there's a little gap here, and the reason this subtraction didn't work, we took the height of the article, subtracted the height of the aside. It should have been over here somewhere, but this is probably due to the fact that the height, as the book explains, the height property does not include padding and extra spacing. So this is it. Very well, we're going to put it back to the top, and this should cover this code, I hope. And thank you very much, and good luck.